bikes are really expensive these days, you know, and if I was in Japan, I'd be a master of my trade because it takes, 25 years to become a master. And I've been doing this for over 30. But bikes are really, really expensive. And the whole thing with servicing bikes for me is that I really care about what I do. I genuinely like each bike has to leave my shop in a much better condition, if not better than the day that it was bought when it's left my hands. And sometimes I labour and spend far too much time on servicing a bike than I should do. I'm really particular about how bar tape's finished, for instance. So I've got like special narrow electrical tape that I finish it with, and working what that cut angle is and counting the turns off and learning the figure of eights and just being, it's like even little things like how long the excess piece of cable out of a rear derailleur should be before it's cut, and then finishing the ferrule with a little cross. So every ferrule on a bike, which is a little, what we used to call lead ends, but the little aluminium sleeve that goes over, is crimped, and I crimp mine with a cross.
Right.
And it's like, it's my signature on the bike.
I was going to say, it sounds like a signature, yeah.
It's also something that I've learned from way back in old bike shop language of, as a mechanic, you can then say, yes, I've worked on this bike, or no, I haven't worked on this bike, simply by looking at,
it's visual recognition
exactly.
that I've
and with the advent of
fingerprints
like electric group sets now, I don't even get to do that.
Yeah.
So
Are you pushing back against some of the evolution that you've seen in the industry?
No,
some of the tools,
so that's a big part of what fascinates me is the technology and how it's evolved, and how, like, I can remember carbon first coming out in the bike world, and everyone going, what are you using carbon fibre for? It's brittle. And like the advent of suspension, like that was new. That didn't exist when I was a kid. And then all of a sudden it came with, like, 50 mil of travel, and then 80 mil of travel, and then 100 mil of travel. And like, I'm now riding a bike with 160 mil of travel on it, which is excess for what it needs. But yeah, to see those evolutions is amazing. And it's, some of it I disagree with. Okay. I think it's unnecessary for the everyday cyclist.
Is the term over-engineered accurate, or is that the wrong thing to say right now as someone that is ignorant?
You could say some things like, that's a prime example, going to mean nothing to you. Internal headsets. So your headset bearing is a movable part between the fork steerer and the frame, and it has a bearing unit in there which does wear, so it needs to be replaced. But internal means that the hoses, the hydraulic hoses, which is the cables for the brakes, go through that bearing. So to take that headset apart, sometimes you have to almost disassemble the entire front end of the bike to change two bearings at about 35, 40 quid. Or you put in a 300-pound ceramic headset that's supposed to be serviceable and will last, but it won't still last indefinitely. So that's over-engineered and unnecessary, and needs to have a solution to it. One of them is essentially like a coupler, which would break the hose like they do on motocross bikes, which they haven't invented. There's one brand that does do it, but it's not based in the UK and they're really hard to get hold of. Or to work out a way of running those cables internally, but through an internal sleeve that's separate from the bearing, so that you can actually service it. So
you're right. It doesn't mean anything to me. But for anyone watching or listening to this that can see how you're talking about that, first off, you clearly know your shit, and then and thank you for taking me through it, because it does now give me an understanding of what we're talking about there. Because I mentioned before we started recording officially, I think I look at bike culture, the movement that seems to be growing. I think it's fair to say it feels like there's more momentum now. And I want a piece of that. I feel other than that, outside looking in. But I can see straight away the brand you're building and the way you're communicating about what it is you do. You clearly give a shit. Oh yeah, and that's infectious. I love that.
Thanks,
so
it means a lot.
Whether I understand it or not, I'm sat here going, there's plenty I don't understand, but I can say I'm a fan of. NFL being one of those things, right? I can sit there and go, I think that's cool. I've got no idea what's happening on the field at any given time.
An American football team. We used to play a lot of rugby when I was a kid.
Really? Yeah.
And I remember putting that, it was just, I was like, I feel like a superhero. I was just it was for the Monarchs. I was just knocking people for six. It was just like this, this is the next level. I'm allowed to hit you as hard as I can, and it doesn't hurt. This is
the pads and the helmet do make a huge difference on those contacts.
I played rugby from a young age, and we'd train on a frozen rugby pitch with no pads whatsoever, and just be told to get back up again. And you feel like you've fallen down, broken your shoulder.
It would hurt enough just sliding across the ground when the ground was hard. Take skin off your legs before you've even really started playing.
There, you're just tingling.
Yeah.
Like, just,
Well, there you go. So that was the example I was using. But yeah, when you can talk and you can generally see that someone cares, straight away it stops you and you think, I want to know more about that. And we're going to talk a bit more about the movement that you're trying to build. And I don't want to jump ahead too far.
No.
But you've, from the look of it, you've had quite a varied career.
Yeah, it's been, I've done lots of, the bike thing's always been there. That's always been.
So that seems to be the undercurrent at the very least. Coming out of uni, you're straight into a bike shop at the time as well. Okay, right.
So straight out of uni, when I was at uni, I started in South Bank. I was working for Evans Cycles, but it was when Evans Cycles was little and it had the Cut and Waterloo Road, and the Cut was like the road specialist bit, and the one that I was working on, Waterloo Road, was a bit more of your commuter and everyday kind of thing.
Got you, okay.
And then when South Bank's course amalgamated, I moved to Kingston, where there was a bike shop called Bonthrin that had just been taken over by Evans Cycles.
Right, okay.
And I worked there. I was there on a Thursday evening and Saturday morning through the whole way through my 3 years at uni.
Wow, okay.
And then left uni and got a job at Condor Cycles, which is in cycling like a bastion of British or the London cycling scene. It's one of the longest. I think it's the last family-owned bike shop, and it's one shop that only sells now its own brand bikes, and that's why I was taught to bike fit. So bike fit is like being a tailor, tailor for bikes. Yeah.
So at 6'4", 104 kilos, what are we talking about for me? What's the bike fit? I guess that's a loaded question because there's a lot to it.
Very low. I mean, I'm 6'3" and I don't know, 16 a bit stone. I don't know what that is in your money.
Probably about the same, actually. It's not a million miles away. Yeah.
Bike fitting I love bike fitting. I've been doing it for a long time. So I started out when I was at Condor, which was 2003. That was 12 years ago. There's a lot of fitters out there that say there's an optimal bike fit. I'm like, well, there can't be an optimal bike fit because your body's never going to be in optimal condition. So what you need to look at is what fit you need for the type of riding you're doing, not the optimal fit that you then can transfer across every single bike. So if you're like racing crit, for instance, which is like out and out, super fast, hour plus a lap kind of, smash it road riding, you're going to be long, you're going to be low, you want a really aggressive bike because you're not looking for that long-term comfort. You're looking for the maximum power outage that you can have in the most efficient position. But that person, if they wanted to do training riding, would probably not ride their crit bike for training on, because they're going to be in a more upright position, different gearing ratios. So bike fitting is in some ways a dark art.
But that's great. I think anything that still has a barrier to entry, or something that you have to really go through it, you have to have your rite of passage almost, earn your stripes to be really good at it.
Yeah.
I think I love that things like that still exist.
Well, bike thing for me is like bikes are really expensive these days. If I didn't work in the trade, I wouldn't have the bikes I've got because I literally couldn't afford them. But if you're spending realistically £4,000 as a start point these days on a good bike, up to £20,000+ for a very, very, very good bike. Come and spend 200 quid with me on a bike fit, because we can then say, yes, this isn't going to work, this is going to work for you, or this isn't going to work for you. And when you're fitting, it's the stem lengths that's different, the bar widths are a different, width. You get different drop on the bar itself. You get crank length changes, inline offset seat posts. There's so many variables within that to optimize it is really hard. But you get to the point where, and you're on a static jig, remember, so it's never going to replicate exactly what's going on when you're out on the road. So you've got to get them to the point where they're comfortable and you're comfortable. And I'm very touchy-feely, holistic in my fitting. I'm not driven by data. I don't have lasers. I use an old school plumb bob. And talk to you. And the biggest thing about my bike fitting is to talk to someone to the point where they're relaxed. And when they become relaxed, then all of their bad sort of body posture or bad habits come out on the bike, and then you can start to fix it.